Welcome to the broadcast. I'm Bart Clareman with the Harbus News Network. Joining me now is Kavikrut. He is one of the co-chairs of the Harvard India Conference, which is going to be held on March 9th and 10th. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So tell us about the conference itself. How long has this conference been held at Harvard Business School and the Kennedy School? What is the history of the event?
Right, so the India Conference at Harvard is pretty much one of the largest university-focused, India-focused conferences by university in the US, pretty much on this side of the world. And we've been doing this for about a decade now, it's 10 years. And the 2013 edition is what we'd like to claim as a team bigger and better than everything we've done before. And we have a pretty thought-provoking theme. I think we've discussed it in another video. But what I would like to focus on is the kind of people who are coming and what are the numbers that we're looking at. So we've usually seen attendees about 500, and it's a very diverse mix of students as well as professionals from the Indian diaspora and otherwise, both in the greater Boston and the East Coast area, as well as we have people who've flown in from other parts of the country. This is pretty much the biggest event every year for people interested in India to be involved at a conference level.
Wow.
And we are looking at speakers, over 60 speakers this year. It's pretty much our largest conference. We usually do a 1.5-day event, but this time it's a full 2-day event that starts at 9 a.m. on the 9th at HKS and ends the next day at 6 p.m. So we have panels, we have keynotes, very high-profile speakers coming in from India. And we have some dinners and networking opportunities lined up. We are looking at about 16 panels. And it's a 2-day conference, so you can imagine the marathon run. Yeah,
well, tell us about the planning process. How long does it take? When do you first get together to begin planning an event of this size?
So we start talking about this edition, the next year's edition rather, as soon as the previous one ends, because we elect our leadership team, and then the team starts working over the summer, just getting the dynamics together and what all needs to be done. Yeah. And our earliest outreach for speakers is somewhere in August and September. I see. And I think the one big thing is we have to first decide what our theme is, and because that pretty much drives who we call, and it'll pretty much drive the intellectual content of the conference. So that usually gets nailed down by August, and that's when we start reaching out. And it's pretty much out in the open. We leave it to the first-year students and people who what we call at the vice president level, which is basically the next batch, the next class of students. They actually do all the outreach. It's up to them how they want to tailor the intellectual content, who they want to call.
And the theme this year is India versus India.
That is correct.
So tell us about that, and tell us about some of the other themes that were under consideration. How did you decide to go down this road?
Deciding a theme was extremely difficult. There are different reasons for it, because India is so diverse. There's a famous saying in India that you change languages, like dialects and diets, every couple of miles, and that happens. So there's just so much to talk about that India is facing. In the recent past, the media has mainly focused on our problems, just corruption. And a few years back, it was all about India's opportunities. So what we were doing in the the professional services space, even an innovation like the Tata Nano, the cheapest car, was out there in the media. But recently we've talked about the problems that India internally faces and how that's creating shackles that we need to break through. So which is why the theme that we talked a lot about on both sides. And there was this one eureka moment between the team where we said, why don't we just create the contradiction of the theme? And form the conference in a debate fashion. So it's all about asking the right questions. I don't think a conference can arrive at answers, but I think it leaves people with what to think about. So India versus India, should we focus on solving our local problems? Should we increase our local strength, or should we continue to do what we've been doing for the last decade or so of making India's position on the global map? Because that race is quite fast now.
So this conference is a partnership between Harvard Business School and Harvard Kennedy School. Are there other partners that you work with in planning the event?
Yes. So actually, this is it's pretty much the first conference in which we've included a large number of schools. It was always the India conference at Harvard Business School and at Harvard Kennedy School. But this year it's the India conference at Harvard. So we have people from the education school, from the Harvard School of Public Health, and not just volunteers and students who are helping us do this, but including professors and moderators and content basically being driven across all these schools.
And what do they bring to the table that past conferences have not had?
I think the most obvious answer to that is diversity. Because, I mean, you and I can sit as business school students and talk about healthcare. And so can Kennedy School students. But I think if you actually bring healthcare students and healthcare professors to the table, their perspective on the problems that are being discussed is very different. So I think that's the kind of diversity that we are adding this year. And it is also, it also adds to, the dream of having a One Howard. We have co-chairs from different schools. We have volunteers from different schools. And it actually acts as a very prime opportunity every year, a moment to get the whole Indian fraternity that's both from India and focused on India together.
For attendees, what one thing do you hope that they walk away from the conference knowing or being appreciative of?
I think as personally as an Indian and as a student and a future professional, if people like me were to come here, all the attendees, I think there have been a lot of negative hope or question marks about what is India's future. Everybody knows that it's going to be a big contributor to the global economy, but nobody knows in what format, because everybody's been questioning the government, corruption, what about all the problems that India is facing, lack of infrastructure, poverty, everything. I think the one thing that people should walk away with is that these problems will be solved, and there is not hope but confidence that India will continue to increase its local strength and build its global growth.
Kavi, thanks so much for your time. Again, it's the Harvard India Conference on March 9th and 10th.
Thank you.